I honestly, the more we have quarantine, the more I'm becoming a complete creep.
Oh my god. I thought of it puts the history in context.
Oh god, that's so. It's like it's a good casting couch thing.
Yeah. It puts the history in context. Or
Reminds me
else.
of Cleopatra.
Oh my god.
So timeless.
What was that?
Timeless.
Time.
I'm trying to think of more historic creep kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I like just calling things it and then saying vaguely intelligent things.
wait, what do you mean?
Like when he says it puts the lotion on its skin,
Oh, yeah,
but it locates its subject in history.
yeah. It
It
took us out of the Bronze Age.
it
Mm,
takes us out of the Bronze.
yeah. Oh
Um,
man. Well, that's gonna be us because we're almost 30, and once you turn 30, that's what you become. You're creepy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And once you're 30 and not married, you're a creep.
Oh yeah. No. So we should try to get good at it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But we'll be creepy and we have power that we can abuse for like 10 years, and then we'll be canceled in our 40s, and it'll all work.
Yeah. You'll give a
It'll be worth
speech
it.
at my wedding, and you'll be like, I can't forget the time Max said to me, it puts the history in context.
Yeah.
And you just start saying,
Like congratulations to Max's bride, who is 20 years younger than him, who he
oh my
handpicked
god.
from a stable of black women. Yeah, somewhere. It's
Shit.
just awful.
Um, I was joking about because I'm moving above Elodie and Sam, and
Oh, congrats on the new apartment.
yeah, thank you. Paid the deposit and all, but they have this shed, and I was joking that they're gonna. I said, "Can I use the shed?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I just keep a harem of people in the shed."
Yeah.
They go out to the shed, and it's like, "Max, you can't keep all these ornately dressed, bejeweled
Yeah.
people in the shed." It's like those
It's
are
like,
my wives.
yeah. It's like, why are there 19 Turkish belly dancers in here? It's strange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
And
there's
you,
all these like silk curtains and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And 40 eunuchs. I think you like the eunuchs better, Max.
Yeah, because it's got
What
to
do you have?
be. I think every belly dancer needs two eunuchs with big banana leaves to.
Yes.
Yeah, and a grape feeding guy.
I
Yeah, yeah.
was just about to say.
Honestly, so I'm guessing they were eunuchs, so they wouldn't, meddle with the ladies, right? Is that why? Or
I
could a
guess.
eunuch be trusted? Is that why they're eunuchs?
I guess, yeah. I know that if you like cut off the balls after puberty, they can still get erect. And there's
Oh, really?
stories of, yeah, there's
So
stories
choir
of
boys can still get erections. I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
no, choir boys can't. I mean, the point of cutting them off for singing is to do it before puberty.
Oh, but if you do it after, you can still.
You do it after, you can
Oh, that's
still
not bad.
get
So,
it
so
up.
you could still achieve a. Huh.
Yeah, I
I thought
did
it was like
read
all
that.
hopeless for them. Okay, never mind. That's not that bad.
No, I don't think they want to particularly, which makes it
Oh
gross. They don't have a sex drive.
man, no, it's a shame. That means eunuchs are very misrepresented. Because in Game of Thrones, there's like the fat eunuch, and he like never gets laid. He's like, but I think he was a boy when he was eunuch.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's a good bite in the
I
locals.
guess
Yeah.
I don't know. I would think that without balls you just wouldn't have a sex drive.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but why else would you get boners? Is it just
Just
because the blood
discomfort
is
or something. Yeah.
yeah, the blood's redirected or you're just relaxed?
Yeah. Huh.
That's the only way. Because in Gore Vidal's novel about ancient Persia creation, which is great, he
Oh.
talks about how he did a lot of research for his novels, but he talks about how some of the ladies, some of the sultanas would have the eunuchs go ahead and fuck them,
Jesus Christ.
and then they had their balls off just so they weren't threatening or something.
Oh man, that's it's so much. It's such a high cost just to protect the king's ego. You know what I mean?
I
It's
know.
just like I just hope there's no funny business going on over here. And be like,
Yeah.
oh, there's nothing's gonna happen. And he like second he closes the door, it's just a romp. Yeah.
Yeah.
He comes back. He's I forgot my crown. Oh, what the hell's going on? You're all
Yeah, they're all bloody and yeah.
oh god.
They've all just had their balls cut off. He's got a new harem. You go in and there's just blood everywhere.
Oh
And
no.
it's like yeah, after we clean up the blood, it's like American Psycho. He puts plastic up everywhere. He's like, this
Oh
is gonna be the
yeah.
new harem.
New harem, new Surname.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Halloween, we put up decorations. We call it a harem scarum.
A harem scare was just eunuchs answering the door.
Yeah.
They're like, "Don't worry, kids. I'm not a threat. I've been snipped."
A,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
boo Nick.
Eunuch.
Oh, a boo Nick. That's what they.
Well, that explains why ghosts have a white sheet. Probably because they're ashamed. Yeah.
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 That's
Or else they
true.
have a hole down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're Orthodox maybe.
Orthodox ghosts. Yeah. Greek Orthodox ghost. He's
Yeah,
like,
there's.
well, I still recognize the authority of the Pope, but we have our own ways too. Like, all
Mm.
right.
One of your dead family members has lingered in the world unfinished with their business because one of your sheets is missing.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be fun. You're just like, oh, I guess Dan turned out to be a ghost. My sheet is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be so annoying. Yeah, it's like when like socks go missing in the laundry. You're like, just a ghost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just tiny ghosts. Maybe they don't tell you that ghosts are really tiny.
When socks go missing, is that because like a kid died? Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're like, the miscarriage. That's what it was. There we go.
Yeah.
That explains it. Yeah.
That's
It must have been
people
octuplets. Yeah.
people who ran away for their wedding from their wedding and died. They've got cold feet.
Yes, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a story Gore Vidal told in his Venice documentary, which is great, and you can find it on YouTube.
Venice, Gorbachev.
Yeah, he said George Eliot, when she went to Venice with her husband, he left her that night. And then George Sand, when she went to Venice with her husband, he just jumped out of the window and fucking killed himself that night, right in front of her. He just jumped out and killed himself.
Wait, his own wife, or hold on, wait, what
The
happened?
husband did.
Jeez.
There are two people who are women with the nom de plume of George.
Oh,
Or
right.
George Sand and George Eliot, and then
Okay, yeah, right.
yeah, Gore Vidal says, all in all, Venice is not a lucky city for women in love named George.
That's a pretty good burn.
I know. I thought that was so funny. But yeah,
Imagine reading that, like, just leave me alone, man. Come on.
I know.
Your name is Gore. Yeah.
Your name is Gore.
Jesus.
Yeah.
This is a very random fun fact. Someone told me, my friend told me this over the weekend. Apparently, when what's his face, when the Spanish conquistadors came to South America, I forget what the guy's name was. The Spanish guy, they thought he was a deity because like he came off the ship on his horse, and like no one ever saw him get off the horse, so people thought he was like a centaur for weeks.
Oh my.
Yeah, and people thought he was a god until he got off the horse. It's like, oh, he's mortal. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think it was Cortez. Yeah, like, people thought he was like a horseman because no one had seen a horse before either. So they're like, "What the fuck is this guy?" Like,
yeah.
yeah.
He's in armor. He's on this horse. They're just like,
Yeah.
holy fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck?
I'll be
He's just like, give me our
goddamn.
gold. Like, all right, I guess we gotta give him the gold. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's just like Moses, and he's like, "Wow, you seem powerful. I'll do it. Okay."
Yeah, exactly. It's just the bush. He's like, I'm not gonna question this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
It's just God's like, "Give him these tablets." Oh boy, okay.
I probably mentioned this before, but that gag in History of the World, the Mel Brooks movie, where like Moses comes down with the tablets, is like, I bring like 16 commandments, and it breaks. I mean, 12 commandments or 10 commandments.
Yeah, I bring you 15,
Yeah.
10 commandments.
Such a fun.
Yeah. I thought that was so brilliant.
That's my favorite joke.
It's so funny, and it's so perfect too, because it just slips and falls.
Yeah, it just goes.
He doesn't drop it. It just I bring you these 15.
Oh man, dude, and fucking Mel Brooks. Like, I remember reading this thing. Someone told me this thing where like someone asked him like, hey, like, would you ever make a movie now? he's like, no, because it wouldn't be funny now. And he just knows when his prime was.
Yeah.
He knows when to step down. Perfect artist. Good.
Yeah, man. No,
Yeah.
he gets it.
Yeah, because
But yeah,
yeah,
a lot of those jokes wouldn't fly today. A lot of jokes in Steve Martin
exactly.
movies would
Yeah,
not fly today.
because there's always that whole thing where everyone's like, "Oh, you could never make Blazing Saddles today." It's like, yeah, you couldn't, but
Yeah.
at least it was made. That's good.
It was made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, dude, if like Monty Python came out today, I don't think people would like it. People would shit on it. They'd be like, "This is just British white garbage or something." I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sketches weren't that good. Let's be honest.
But they were so weird, it was just worth it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but when in everything that John Cleese wrote, it was perfect.
Yeah, and because back then, it was challenging the stuffy kind of post World War II like British society. So that was cool.
Yeah, John Cleese wrote everything that was really good, I think.
Oh man.
And he and Graham Chapman did, and Graham Chapman was just drunk and would yell out something brilliant every once in a while. And John Cleese said, "I don't know what it is, but it always fit, and it was always the next thing I needed." He was
it's really like you and Brian with jokes. Like I'll like have a premise, you just finish it for me. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah,
I don't know. Wes asked me once. He said, "Do you have trouble with punchlines?" I was like, "No, no, I don't."
No.
I have trouble with punchlines on the long bits, but not on the short ones.
Oh man, yeah.
That's why I don't do long bits.
Yeah.
It's just worse.
I'm just gonna memorize 500 jokes for my hour. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll do like 6 sets of 10. That's what I'll do.
Exactly.
Set of 10, everyone has a drink. Yeah. Set of 10, everyone has a drink.
So like everyone just be like, it seems every 10 minutes it just starts over. This is a very strange pace.
Yeah. That's what I'm able to do right now anyway. I think I probably have a clean dark 10, I have a dirty dark 10, a dirty clean 10, and and vice versa is all.
I'm jealous. I pretty much have my ethnic 10, which is just like attention getting, and then there's like the bar 10, which just gets me through the shitty shows. So that's pretty much
What I do at the bar shows where nobody's paying attention is I just ramble.
Yeah.
And then I try to record.
Like, no one expects anything more. You can just be like, if you just survive, it's it.
Yeah. I usually get pretty good laughs just because I start hounding people.
Yeah.
And then if they start, I tell them I just complain that they're not paying attention to me in like a monotone voice. And when they start paying attention to me, I yell at them, I'm like, "What are you doing? Look at your phone." Like trying to get them to look back at their phone. It's like everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, because it's better to be loose than just be like this terrified like court jester. And, just the idiot fat ass that you're doing jokes for is like some overfed king just making you dance for him. It's awful.
I think the people who are paying attention find it so funny when I do that. But like those crazy loud bar shows where a lot of people are faced away from you anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy how in history that like hasn't changed. Like back in like 100 years ago in vaudeville, that's like what it was too. It was just doing bar shows back then.
Yeah, man.
Oh, it's horrible.
War never changes.
War never changes. Anyway, okay, but no. Speaking of history, this is.
Oh my god! Yeah. I wasn't even mentioning history. Shut up.
Oh, it's all good.
Shut up.
Okay, so for this one, I've kind of been reading a kind of history book. It's more like a sociology, like philosophy. It's really good. It's this one. It's on identity by this guy Amin Maalouf. Cool cover too. It's like this freaky mask. Yeah, no, he's actually the guy who wrote that book I was talking about a few episodes ago, like the Crusades Through Arab Eyes. He's kind of like this Lebanese author, but like it's really cool. It's honestly like it's one of those books. Like, have you ever read a book that just make you feel like it make you just felt like a complete fraud? Like everything you've been trying to say, they said, but in better words, and you're just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I only read books like this.
Yeah, no, like it hurt to read because like every line was like amazing, but it's also like every joke I've been trying to write ever you're just doing a better version of it, and in
Yeah.
philosophical terms. So I'm like, this is just, it's like I've just been wasting my time. This is the best book. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's all about like what identity is, like what like how it's like politicized. So it has some good points because it has this whole thing where like the more identities you have, the more alienated you are, right? So like if you're like an Italian gay black Jewish guy, like the more things you have, the more niche your category is. Because like like if you're a man, then you have something in common with like 3 billion people. But if you're like a
Yeah.
Jewish man, then you have only thing then that group gets smaller. And the more things you add, like you just get squeezed into a tinier box, and then
I
that makes you more alienated and stuff like that. And then yeah, it's just interesting. And then kind of how like he has this good point where like in like because I think it was written in like the 90s, so he kind of uses like the Yugoslav Balkan wars as a big like a huge example. Because he kind of has this good point where like like back in the 80s, some guy from like Yugoslavia who lives in Sarajevo, like he thinks of himself first as a Yugoslav, right? So he's not thinking like I'm Bosnian or I'm Muslim or I'm Croatian. He's like mostly I am this nationality. But then 10 years later in the Civil War, he's like, oh fuck that, I'm not Yugoslavian anymore. I'm Bosnian. It's like, well, what happened there? Like you just changed identity. So it's like, but here's a good point though, where it's like you're the identity that you present as is the one that's like most under attack. So
Yeah.
like if you're like gay and the society is like really homophobic, then you identify mostly as gay because that's the one you're always like punching about.
Mhm.
So like but if you're also Italian, you're like, yeah, I'm Italian, but that's not what I'm being. Like people aren't throwing rocks at me for being Italian. It's like yeah. No, it's really interesting. Yeah, but then he also has a good point. So he has this great line. He says, "The secret dream of every migrant is to be taken as a native, where all they want is just blend in. So they all just want to like just be able to blend in, but they're all just bad at it because they're still carrying all this luggage.
I
How to
know.
do it, but it's like their dream. But yeah, no, it's very weird though because he was talking also how like nobody is like one thing, but like you are kind of a compound of all those things. But yeah, but it's kind of interesting because it's a good point where it's like, how do people just suddenly become like murderers, like mass murderers, and do war crimes and like commit genocide? It's because like eventually they attach so much to their identity that they're like, oh my god, we have to defend this, we gotta attack this, preserve this, like yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. It's like a very powerful concept where like he kind of shows how dangerous it can be to have identity. But yeah.
Yes. And that's what's happening now.
Exactly. That's what I thought. Because like this is the 90s. I feel like it's only just gotten more exaggerated by now. Where like now
Yeah.
it's like everybody like people look for identity when they shouldn't even have to do that. They're just like, I want to be something so badly so I can be mad for some reason.
Yeah. You've got this guy who has no other, distinctions about him, and then he's like, my name's Dan. I box.
Exactly right.
I'm
Because he's talking
Dan.
about like a refugee where like he really didn't even ask for it. Like they were just like, all right, you are a refugee from Bosnia. You're fleeing conflict. Like that's your identity. Like that's like he didn't even ask for it. Like, yeah, that's some idiot 35-year-old
Yeah.
like I'm a gamer. Yeah,
I'm a gamer. Yeah.
it just cheapens. It's just such a
Oh,
trivial
because
cheap.
people who have it
Yeah,
too easy. They just have it
no,
too easy.
exactly.
They're
Yeah.
just like, or they identify as like Francophiles and Anglophiles and people
I know
like
it's
that.
very strange. It's like, why would you want this kind of oppression? It's like an awful. It's like, I mean, it's just torture 24/7. Being different. Being different sucks. You want
Yeah.
to be the same. That's I don't get it. Like, I mean,
I
that's
don't
the
know.
goal.
That's
Yeah,
that's what they do to individualize themselves and give themselves significance. Some
yeah.
of them are like, "Oh, I'm really into my Scottish heritage.
Uh,
I really love
yeah.
Scotland. I go to Scottish festivals. I wear kilts."
Which is a
Ugh.
weird thing to me because I was thinking about it too. Like like in America, you have this like kind of weird homogenized like white culture, which gets made fun of a lot. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, white culture, what's that? Like mayonnaise or whatever." But
Yeah.
like, no, I mean there are like these little subsections of like Scots or like former Scottish people. Or I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
weird thing because it seems like once you give it in, like once you give up the Scottish part, then you can't really get it back. Like you're just in the soup now. You can't like
Yeah.
reclaim. It's weird.
Colin Quinn talks about that where he says he
Really?
goes to Ireland and he's like, it's not like New York. You can't say you're Irish over there. You can't say you're
Exactly. No, I've
Irish.
seen the thing where like Italian Americans and Italians like don't get along at all. They're so
Hmm.
different. They're like, yeah, it's
Yeah. It's so funny.
Because it seems like once you buy in, then you kind of have to give up some of the stuff, which is I think is just normal. Like if you move to over time, like
Yeah.
your kids aren't going to be as like first generation as you are.
Mhm.
They're going to blend in eventually.
Who said I am a citizen of the world?
It sounds like a Plato kind of thing. It sounds
Yeah,
like some shit he would
it's
say.
I am a citizen. I think it may have been somebody around that time.
Yeah, like all those guys had some good one-liners.
Hmm.
Also, I swear I've seen that quote when I play Civilization.
Oh, it was Chaplin.
Oh, really?
It
Oh,
was
oh, but
Charlie
check this out.
Chaplin.
Socrates said, "I am a citizen. I'm a citizen of the world, and my nationality is goodwill,"
Oh,
which is kind of a douchey thing to say.
it just gave me fucking Chaplin. Why doesn't mine give me Socrates?
I just googled it. I don't know if I'm right. Hold on, let's see. Did Chaplin just steal that one?
Oh my God.
A citizen of the world, Chaplin. Is it like Socrates said by Chaplin? Like no, actually no. You know what? Chaplin said it too. They said it independently.
Oh,
Because Chaplin said, "I consider myself a citizen of the world, an internationalist. I just happen to have been born in London, England. I feel I'm a citizen of the world." Oh, so both of them just came to it of their own merit.
yeah, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
But why did yours just give you Socrates?
Well,
Mine.
also I left out the Chaplin part, so it just gave me Socrates.
I didn't put Chaplin in either.
Maybe the algorithm is just different for us. It's giving me Socrates. It's giving you Chaplin.
Yeah, what does
What
it
does that
think I
mean?
am?
He probably thinks you're Jewish. Probably. I don't know.
Oh my God. Was he Jewish?
I think. Hold on.
I don't think he was. I
I
think he
think
was
everyone
all
thought he was.
think he was all a chap. He was all chap.
Jews had believed Chaplin was secretly Jewish. Apparently, people think he had a fake name. People think he was really named Israel Thornstein.
Oh no. Oh my
Oh,
God.
okay, wait, hold on. This is crazy. There's an article from 1931. Einstein says Chaplin is half Jewish.
Oh.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Is
But
that the good
apparently the
half?
FBI thought he was. I guess it was a big debate. So who knows?
Yeah, the FBI thought he was.
Why
I
are
love
they
that
asking
that was,
Einstein?
yeah,
Who was
because
asking
I don't
Einstein?
know.
1931. They're like Einstein. We good job on that physics paper. Anyway, what do you think Chaplin is? Huh?
I love that. That's such an
You never
insensitive
tried,
way
huh,
to,
Einstein? I mean, you're all
yeah,
friends, don't you all know?
that's such an insensitive way to put it too. What do you think Chaplin
Yeah.
is?
What do you think he is? What's he?
What's he
Like
like
Einstein's like,
dismissing it?
I
Yeah.
just want to talk about my inventions. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to talk about my
I will
inventions.
escape Nazi Germany. uh,
Oh my God.
but yeah. So anyway, going back to the book, no, I still haven't finished it, but like the last part I got to, he had another great point that like I literally just want to take every good line from this book and turn it into a bit. It's how like it's so good. This one he says, okay, he says the more an immigrant feels his culture is respected, the more eager he is to like to kind of like acclimate to the host culture, which totally makes sense because like if you go into like a cab and the guy's just all Muslimed out and he's just listening to like prayers, just no regard to like fitting in. That's because he just feels so attacked that he's like, why should I assimilate? No one respects me, so I'm not going to respect you guys.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they kind of ease it up a bit, old Abdul might get a little American in there. But just a theory. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting that there's some conservatives, notably in England, because English conservatives are very different from American
Hmm.
conservatives, but that are pro migration, but they do think it should be one culture. They
Oh.
think not necessarily British. They said it should be a mishmash, but just one.
So they want like the melting pot to be the culture. Like that's the culture. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which is really interesting to me.
That's actually not immediately a bad idea. I don't know because
It's
it
not
lets
it's
everyone
not hateful, I guess, but it's still
no, right? I mean, because it still lets you kind of be proud of who you are. Like you're like, oh, like we're Italians, but you're also like, hey, we're also part of this whole thing.
yeah, man. Um,
Because maybe it's necessary for a country to like not. I don't know. That's a good question. Because I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
He says some interesting things. Oh, I'm talking about Peter Hitchens, not Christopher, but
Oh yeah.
he's like the conservative brother, but he says some interesting things because he studied America a long time and he came and lived here. And he said he thought that the nationalism, some of the patriotism and nationalism in America would go away if we had a monarch. Because he said we wouldn't be treating the president like a figurehead and people wouldn't be going, follow the president at all costs while he's actually making decisions. He said they have it great over in Britain because they have a monarch who they can just like shit on all time.
Right. A constitutional monarchy would be great because we would just fucking call if Trump was king, we would just call him names.
Oh yeah.
And then the prime minister would be our guy. We'd be like, yeah, prime minister.
Yeah. Oh, I have it the wrong way around. So the prime minister is the one you shit on, and the king's the one you respect. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Actually, like what if in alternate history, like George Washington did become king, and then his descendants are just like the kings, and then you have like prime ministers, like an England kind of thing.
Yeah,
that'd be weird, but it'd be funny. Where it's like, oh man, Washington fucking rips this guy a new one. Like that. Yeah. Also, it'd be weird for the Civil War, like because he'd be like, guys, come on, let's not fight. Like I don't know.
Yeah, they wanted to make Washington king, and he said no, but he should have said yes. I think.
Yeah,
he just should have.
But he died so soon after. Yeah.
He did, but we have the president as a figurehead. And as the commander-in-chief, so we don't shit on him as well. Like in England, they have prime minister question time because they don't respect the prime minister at all, where the prime minister just stands in front of parliament and they just howl questions at them.
Exactly. It seems like the prime minister in England, like it seems much less permanent. Like you can just go at any time. They can vote you out. Like the president here is too comfy. Like you can't get rid of me for 8 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
People resign so quickly there, and I think their election takes 2 weeks.
That's hilarious. It's funny too because here people always brag about the checks and balances. I can't remember a time when checks and balances have actually worked. Like it's always they seem to just not exist at all. Everyone's like, oh, well, you see, we have the 3 branches and this branch regularly. It's like, no, they're all fucking crooked. And this guy.
Of course, they're all crooked, but
it's like there's no checks or balances.
They're crooked to an extent. That's a nice thing about the checks and the balances. Oh, this reminds me. Salman Rushdie once was asked, to what extent, by I think a McCarthyite representative, to what extent are you a communist? And he said, to a certain extent.
Wait, who was this?
Salman Rushdie.
To a certain, what a great answer.
I know.
To a certain extent. They probably still wrote it down, like to a certain extent. Okay, yeah, good.
I know. But he was in an interview and he said that he's like, one of them asked me, to what extent are you a communist? And I was rather proud of having said, to a certain extent.
Dude, what a fucking badass.
I know.
This is very unrelated, but have you seen those photos on Twitter of like Salman Rushdie with really hot women?
Yeah.
Where like he's just like on like a runway on like a red carpet with like some 27-year-old on his arm, and he's just balding, fat glasses, like just looking. He's just honestly, I think surviving that fatwa gave him just supreme confidence.
Of course, I mean he's in Curb Your Enthusiasm talking about that.
He's like, hey baby, the Ayatollah wants to kill me, so how about we go back to my hotel room and
I know.
Like, what? Khomeini wants to kill you? It's like, yeah, pretty
good. And both, you know why he's suave. That's why he's so funny. He's the funniest.
Well, I mean, if he talks anything like he writes, I bet he's gonna just talk your pants off.
Yeah, no, his writing, it's panty droppers, all of it.
Oh, must be nice. Honestly, dude, like if comedy doesn't work out, we should just try to become esteemed writers, like move to Paris or something.
I know.
What's a good city for a writer? Paris is a good writer city. Brussels or something. I don't know.
Brussels,
I don't know. The Hague. I don't know where they go.
You and I moved to like Moscow and start writing.
Oh my god, we should be cold Russian writers. We should just move to like St. Petersburg and just like walk around like shivering. Like, hey, do you have inspiration? Oh, that really is my fantasy though. Just be like a writer in a petticoat and like I swear to God, my fantasy is taking the picture for the back of the book where like you're like cross-legged with like a cigarette in front of your big study, and it's like Arash Tajiki is born in he lives with his cat in his house in Maine or something.
Yeah.
I'd kill for that. That'd be so good.
He has 14 kids and 9 wives in
Yeah,
Moscow.
yeah.
He lives with his 1,000 wives.
Yeah, he lives with his harem, his shed
Yeah.
harem. Yeah.
His shed hair.
Oh my God, I would kill.
I'm imagining just a heavy coat and one of those poofy hats. One of those hats that's
Yes,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
big
There's just
fur.
a whole Ushanka, yeah.
Yeah, a big fur marshmallow. Not
Oh my
even a
God,
Ushanka with the flaps, just a big fur marshmallow on your head.
dude,
And then you're walking around.
it's a shame it's not like the '70s. Like the Cold War would be on. We would be on some like black and white talk show, like like boring talk show, talking to like Walter Cronkite or something. And it's like,
Yeah.
so what are your remarks on the Berlin Wall? And we're like, well, Walter. It seems Gorbachev must like deal with the like what the fuck are we talking about, Paul? Like
Yeah.
I would love that. Just
I really think it's the case that personalities don't change over time. It's just different personalities are in vogue over time. So you would be like that. You would be more of a 70s style, but I'd be more now where I'd be like, I think they're bad.
Yeah.
I think the Berlin Wall is not good.
Yeah.
Just making fun of them for asking the question.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you would have a good answer, and I'd be like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like I still don't have the thing. Like I feel like I would try very hard to be one of those guys. But I just don't have that DNA where you're like truly a stoic guy. Because I think I'm too anxious to be stoic. Like a truly like guy who really takes his time with his words, doesn't mince anything.
Yeah,
I feel like if you would ask me a question about the Soviet Union, I would just be stammering like an idiot.
My grandpa
Yeah.
talked about one of his bosses when he worked for Deseret First, or was I think it was Deseret First back in the day,
Oh,
and
okay.
he like when it first started, like a long time ago, or like I can't remember, but I think when it first started, it was some bank that's Utah specific, but. He said he always admired his boss because whenever he asked his boss something, his boss would always take a pause before answering. He'd ask something and his boss would go,
Oh my God.
yeah.
That
And then
terrifies me. I hate when people because it gives me a fucking heart attack anytime anyone pauses. Especially with like when people pause before like the subject of a sentence. I
yeah.
can't take it. Like when someone's like, I just don't like and you're like, what? Like what the fuck? Like just say this.
But that's a thoughtless pause, whereas this other guy has a thoughtful pause
thoughtful
where he'd
pause.
be like, I think that
Oh
and
God,
like
dude,
that.
that horrifies me. Like my old boss was like that, where like we'd have like a meeting, and he'd be like, "All right, so Rash, what have you gotten done today?" Like, "Oh, I did this and this." He's just like, "Okay." What?
Yeah.
Like, what's that mean?
What?
Like, you wouldn't be mad. I don't think those people realize how unbearable it is for everyone else when they're talking.
I'm gonna do that to you the whole call now. I'm not gonna
Okay.
answer you right away the whole call now.
Oh God. Also, I fucking hate like the Valley Girl. Yeah, like the really misplaced pause where like they hang on like them like they're like I just like I that was the one you hang on.
I
Like,
know.
well, for me, I just don't like Islam. And like, what? That's the one that you chose to hang.
Yeah.
You
You're
should be hanged.
supposed to
Yeah.
you're supposed to pause before the most interesting thing
Yeah.
because and in the middle of a sentence because that gives the right placeholder while you're taking a
Oh,
breath. If you
that,
breathe at the end of a sentence, people are gonna overtake you.
dude,
And if
people
you're
have
just
no regard for like good like language anymore. It's just
yeah.
it's done. Like
I mean
not to be like a nerd, but it is completely awful. It's just
yeah, that's the way to argue conversationally. I use it all the time where
yeah.
I'm just like the Cold War was a bad thing because it
It's so funny because like
yeah.
I swear comedic timing and like good point timing are almost the same thing. Where he'd
Yeah.
be like, "Well, I disagree with you because you're gay." Like you can
Yeah.
just yeah, it's like that pregnant pause. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how fertile I am. I make all the pauses pregnant.
Yeah, pregnant.
That's how fucking
Oh,
fertile I am.
I wear no condoms with my
With my pauses.
raw. Yeah. Oh god. No, it's so like, dude, I swear, like on Twitter, I follow like newspapers, and they have like just typos all over their fucking tweet. Like they don't even edit them or correct them. Just typos
Oh,
everywhere. I'm like, this is the fucking Washington Post. You guys have
yeah.
typos. What's going on
Nobody cares.
here?
Oh, I want to start that online magazine soon, and I've changed the format a bit.
Oh, I actually started
I
writing
will,
something for that. So,
awesome. Yeah, I
yeah.
want it. I want it also to be kind of editorial, but I want it different people to argue different things. Like
Oh,
we'll be like one page is somebody arguing this, one page is somebody
oh my
arguing
god.
against that.
Dude,
I
a
think it'd be
forum
really
would be
fun.
amazing. Yeah, if you had like
Yeah.
multiple people. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be interesting actually.
But they're actual pieces and they're actual well-written pieces and well thought out pieces, but just like
Hmm.
when they click on a subject, we'll do it by subject and
Yeah,
maybe list the authors under the subject, but each subject will have two authors. You
that'd be
click on
cool.
it and then it shows like one for it, one against it, and
It's
then you
literally
can
column
just
A, column B. Like, yeah, you're like,
yeah,
that would be really cool. I think that'd be interesting because then it
yeah,
actually like. Also, I think if you knew you were writing against someone else, it would kind of make you
yeah.
think better. Like, oh, okay, I should try to make this an argument.
Right. But you don't know what the other person's gonna say. So
Yeah.
it's like a game of battleship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it kind of
Um
reminds me of like that Dave Chappelle joke where like he's arguing oppression with a Jew, and like and the Jew is like, oh yeah, but what about slavery? He's like, slavery. You don't love slavery. They always bring up
yeah.
slavery. That dude.
All right, one person writes something that's for it, and then under a pseudonym, just write against it. Just write a whole piece against it, like
Oh,
as a character who's completely against the idea. That would be fun too.
I haven't thought about having a pseudonym. Dude, we just mentioned nom de plume. That'd be
Yeah.
oh. Hmm.
Nom nom de plume
Oh
is
god. Oh
if
nom
you
nom.
that's if you eat a lot of pens.
uh,
Plume actually means feather, so
right. Yeah. Oh yeah, right.
yeah.
Because yeah, because it
Mhm.
was what they were writing with. Oh,
When I
random fact too. It turns out, so Nimrod is kind of like what they call it, like an idiot or like some kind of oath. But
yeah.
I guess it just came from Bugs Bunny because he was calling Elmer Fudd Nimrod because Nimrod is like an ancient hunter from like Gilgamesh and shit.
Nimrod was the guy who built the Tower of Babel
Yeah, so
and
like Nimrod was like the
tried to
noble
reach
thing,
heaven.
but Bugs Bunny was sarcastically calling Elmer Fudd Nimrod, and so
I
they just
don't
stuck after
I
that.
don't think it's noble because he thought that by building a tower you could reach heaven.
Oh, so it's like a hubris thing.
Yeah, he's kind of
He was
a
mocking Elmer
dummy.
Fudd. Yeah, but so people
Yeah.
from Bugs Bunny are like, "Oh, you Nimrod."
But
From what I heard,
I
it came
think
from.
that's been happening for a long time. I think people
Ah,
have
damn.
used that
Well,
for a long time.
never
'Cause
mind.
it's in the Bible, and then you use. I mean, it's like Shakespeare. It's in the Bible. You use people. You're like, ah, he's a real Aaron. He's a
Yeah.
real doubting Thomas. He's a
Shit, I was
real
really excited to
Nimrod.
tell you that. Never mind.
Oh, that's right. But yeah, he and then he's the guy responsible for all the other languages. Um,
Ah.
let's
Oh,
see.
also, I heard this this one this one I heard where so kids back in the day, like when Popeye came out in the 30s, kids would say their favorite vegetable was spinach because they were all watching Popeye, so they would all lie and say spinach.
No,
Yeah.
that's funny. Um, yeah, apparently Nimrod was a great hunter. It says he was a great hunter under God, but he also was the guy who created
The tower.
um,
Oh, yeah.
Tower of Babel. And then I think God was like, "What a dumbass!" But he changed all the languages so they couldn't finish it anyway. Couldn't finish it anyway because maybe he was nervous they'd actually get there, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Look at these dumbasses!" And then they get really close. He's like, "Oh shit!
Oh shit. Oh, hey, whoa.
Oh
Hey. These mortals are more than their.
yeah."
Yeah. Whoa.
Um, that's funny. And I was like, I just like he turned around and said, "What? Whoa,
Whoa, hey, whoa.
interesting." They're right. He's like, they'll never make it. He turns around, it's right in his face. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. He has like a car jack he's just using to like crank the sky up more.
I know.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, no, it really is like just a Tom and Jerry cartoon, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like up. He puts a bunch of balloons up there, and
Yeah.
then heaven just rises.
Dude, I swear that the first guy to put balloons on a lawn chair and launch himself in the sky, God was like, "Ah, shit! Oh no, we gotta."
I know.
Yeah.
There are people. I want to do that.
That's actually not a bad point. I bet with space travel, God just kind of like made us think that there's space, but he actually just increased the limits by a few meters.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, they haven't reached the Pluto yet, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be a while.
It's like when they first went up to space, Lance Armstrong was like, "What's that?" And then he just sees this like heavenly glow in the horizon,
Yeah.
and then it just like disappears. He's like, "What? What the fuck? It just went away." Guys,
Yeah.
did anyone get a picture of that? Get a picture of what? Oh, come on.
So now we're just busy looking at the flag. Okay.
He sees Jesus just like flipping them off
Yeah.
and like laughing. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah, like God is peering through some blinds.
hmm
Yeah.
the finger of God.
Yeah.
It should be this.
Honestly, just the whole image of God being embarrassed is really, really funny. Where he's like, oh,
I know.
yeah. He's like puts his towel back on.
Yeah, closes his robes.
Yeah. Oh,
Jesus, yeah. He was putting on his stockings and they caught him.
Yeah, he's putting on lipstick and he has like fishnets on.
It's like, would you worship me? I'd worship me.
Yeah.
I'd worship me so hard.
Oh no, it's probably one of those things where like the CEO who has such a powerful, rich life that he goes undercover as a prostitute at night just to feel something. You know? Yeah.
I like the Buffalo Bill analogy.
Yeah.
Where God's putting on the lipstick. He's like, would you worship me? Then he's like tucking his. They think he's a man. He's a woman or something, but he's tucking his balls behind. This is very blasphemous.
Yeah.
I feel kind of dirty.
He hasn't stricken us down yet. So.
No, it'll happen though.
Yeah.
You'll get us. Sorry, God.
Sorry, God. Love you, God.
This is how I worship. I just kiss my fingers and put them to the sky. I go,
yeah.
Sorry, God.
like a soccer player.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like Scouts honor. I love that the Pope actually does Scouts honor sometimes.
It's funny, doing this, like, sorry, God. It's like you're fisting God, right? You're about to like get in.
Oh my God. That's bad. Yeah, you're like.
Yeah. He like it's that whole sexy thing where like you put like the finger to. Like whoa! I didn't know a freak like that.
People are gonna use this for ASMR or whatever.
Yeah, just are popping and sucking.
Just popping and sucking and fucking and sucking.
Fucking.
There's a story of somebody on Conan's podcast had a story of meeting Tom Hanks for the first time, and she was talking to Conan about how funny the phrase "fucking and sucking" was. And then Tom Hanks came up. He's like, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" She's like, "Fucking and sucking," and turns right back to Conan. Tom Hanks is
yep,
Yeah. Also, I watched the Simpsons movie for the first time in forever yesterday.
Whoa.
It's so funny.
It is good. Okay.
Oh, funny! I didn't even notice how good it was.
I hated it back then, but I was like a kid, so yeah.
It's got some of the funniest things, and then and Tom Hanks is there at the end, and he's just like, "Hi, I'm Tom Hanks, reminding you if you see me in public, leave me be."
Simpsons had the best like celebrity cameos. There's the one where James Woods is in it, and like he's doing up to his job to like prepare for a role. It's like so funny. He's like, "Oh my God, you're the guy. Like everyone knows you in this business." It's like
That's funny.
They're so great.
Yeah. James Woods is in that too. I thought he was just in Family Guy.
Yeah. He's I forgot what season, but like he's like in the Quickie Mart and he's just like talking to his agent and like trying to like do the role, and he's like, hold on, that whole thing was that believable? And the guy's like, I don't know, man, you kind of selling it a bit too hard. He's like, I'm always doing selling it. And he's like,
I know.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
God, method actors are so cringe.
But it's the way to do it. Also,
it is the way. Yeah,
it is the way to do it best.
Yeah, what's his face? De Niro. He's a big method guy.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Then terrible. He just acted like De Niro forever.
Yeah,
now he just acts the same.
Oh God.
It's just this face.
Yeah, he just loves being a grumpy fish. Like he just.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It worked really well for Meet the Parents, but I don't know.
That was the beginning of the end. That was it.
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? I think that's funny.
Yeah, it was good. Also, you know what? Meet the Fuckers was not bad either. It was all right.
No.
And Dustin Hoffman, that was funny.
Dustin Hoffman's really funny.
Yeah.
He's funny. James Woods is funny. Charlie Chaplin's funny. Basically, all the creeps are funny.
Yeah,
Why
all the
is that?
creeps are
All
funny.
the fucking
Yeah.
creeps.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
it's funny. The creeps are funny. The hot guys are not funny. Like Brad Pitt is not funny.
he's so funny. Are you
Really?
kidding me? He's so
Oh, you
funny.
know what? Him and Inglorious Bastards, Bonjour. Yeah, that was pretty
Yeah,
good. That's
you
pretty
got
good.
to hear the Mark Maron interview with him and Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio's not funny, but
Oh,
Brad Pitt is so funny. And he's watched Marin like 14 times because
really?
he loves seeing Marin. He said, seeing you suffer makes my day. That's what he said. And then during the interview, Mark Maron like has trouble with his recording. He's like, God damn fucking recorder. And Brad Pitt goes,
Whoa, that's interesting to me. That's okay. That's cool. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
he's just got like relaxed stoner humor.
That's awesome.
'Cause he just smokes all the time.
Oh man. No, it definitely it does not surprise me that Leo has no sense of humor at all.
Yeah.
He's pretty sad. Like dude, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I feel like he actually was that sad as the guy he was playing. He was
Yeah.
like miserable in that movie.
He's a sad man.
Yeah, it's why that movie was so
Yeah.
good because he was funny. Leo just wanted to cry the whole time.
I know he has everything he wants, and he's never set himself up with enough vulnerability to lose anything,
Yeah, exactly.
which Brad Pitt has and seems happy.
Yeah, because you're right. Because Leo was like the pretty boy star since he was like a kid, pretty much.
Yeah,
He's never not been extremely fucking famous. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah. He was. He and Kenneth Branagh were starred in a Woody Allen movie. It's called Celebrity,
What?
about Leonardo DiCaprio becoming a celebrity. And then
Oh,
right after that, he got super famous because Titanic was made right after it.
whoa.
But it was totally panned because Kenneth Branagh is just doing like a really good, actually, Woody Allen impression the whole time for the whole movie. Shakespearean actor, very well respected
Yeah.
actor Kenneth Branagh.
Is he just like super anxious and like, oh yeah, you did it," like just
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And then Woody Allen said, "I let him do it because he did it way better than I would have done it."
I would kill myself if I had to be on that set. Like just watching that. Like if you were directing that, like directing
Yeah.
someone playing you. I don't know how people do that, dude. That's
He does it all the time. He just has Woody Allen stand-ins.
Jesus.
Owen Wilson was one of the best ones, I think.
He
Because
okay, yeah. In
he
Midnight in
made
Paris, he was very
yeah.
Woody Allen.
He made it his own though.
Yeah, he was so unlike Owen Wilson. Like he was just like,
Yeah,
I actually kind of bought into it. I was like, oh, he's like a writer. It makes sense.
he does a great job.
Yeah, because
And
I
then
had that whole thing where he's like, he's like a Hollywood writer. He writes like shitty rom-coms, but then he like becomes a real writer from hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woody Allen also another creep, another funny
Yeah,
creep.
another creep.
Why does this happen?
It's
Why
just why we haven't met
why are so
successful
many
actors.
funny people creeps?
I think we have to become creeps now.
Oh my
More
God.
creepy than we are. Yeah,
I guess.
already are. Yeah.
Yeah, to make it big. You don't have to be a creep if you're a writer. Some of them are, but not all of them.
I'm just gonna continue my whole life with like a furrowed brow, just like
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like
But you have to
I've got to perfect a face that will just send shivers down the spine of every woman I'm around.
Oh my God.
If I can just do that, I'll be hilarious. I'll be so
Oh
funny.
no.
If I'm just like if I just gaze at them for a second, it ruins their day. That's what I
Oh
want.
no.
Yeah, just
No bad.
yeah.
I don't know. Like the most charming person in Hollywood is apparently the most charming people are reportedly David Spade and he was in my Midnight in Paris. He plays the ladies. Oh,
Dude, I so badly wanted to hate his new show, but he's actually like really nice and funny. Yeah.
who is?
David Spade?
Oh yeah, he's so good in it.
Yeah, no,
He's
just
such
because
a good.
I sort of like just because the last time I saw him I was like 7 and he was on like Don't Shoot Me or whatever.
Yeah,
So I was like, yeah, this guy sucks, but he's actually pretty cool.
he's so funny.
Yeah.
He's got the best delivery. He can deliver any bad joke in a great
Yeah,
way.
dude, he's funny.
So good. It's just that in his stand-up, he just didn't write very well.
Yeah, he just gets by with his performance, which is a valid tactic, honestly.
But he said some creepy things in one of his specials. He says, "You ever seen pictures of John Benet Ramsey without makeup? Not a stunner."
That's really funny.
I
That's
know.
really funny. Not a stunner.
I was in my car and I went, ah, ah! Just like
Speaking of
screamed.
pregnant pauses, that's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
know.
Not a stunner.
Holy shit.
That's a funny joke. Oh man, that's
But it's
funny.
like one of the most terrifying jokes I've ever heard.
Oh my
So,
god. Not
not
a
a stunner.
uh, dude, it's pretty funny though, because like going back, like most like comedians who are super famous now, like their old specials, they all have that like really cringe like dating chunk with like Bill
Yeah.
Clinton jokes and shit. It's just so bad. Like you're like, oh god.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
nobody should joke about politics. It's not funny.
Oh no,
It's only funny if it's really ironic and satirical.
it's just
Like,
like Monica Lewinsky jokes that aged
yeah,
terribly.
we should just do. I want to do a whole special of Monica Lewinsky jokes now.
Yeah, 20 years later.
It'd be so, yeah.
Oh my god, no, a roast of Monica Lewinsky.
Also,
Now,
people don't talk about this anymore, but like Clinton should be Me Too'd and hasn't been because
yeah, he's impervious to it.
yeah,
Even the painting inside Epstein's house, it was like a joke to everyone. Everyone's like, ah, it's so funny.
yeah,
He's a criminal. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, yeah.
yeah. Holy shit.
Uh,
But yeah, he has as many allegations against him as Trump. I think a little fewer. I think like
oh
one or
god.
two fewer, but
Are him and Biden tied, or well, I don't even know what the count is anymore. They're
I
all
don't know.
pretty dirty.
We shouldn't like put one over another, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. I mean, they all should be in a cage. But it's just
Yeah,
like, it's
they all should. But how he treated Monica was so terrible, and they were
oh
very
yeah.
close to smearing her too.
Dude,
They were.
she was young as fuck. She was like 22 or
I
when it
know.
all went down. And it's like, okay, like you tried not being manipulated when you're 22 and working for the fucking president like that.
Yeah.
You can do
Holy
anything anyone
shit.
tells you. Like, yeah, I'll do it. You know, like,
Holy shit. And she's got a great social media presence now. She's a
yeah, I
smart
found her
lady.
on Twitter.
Yeah. She's really smart. And then but they told her apparently that if she said anything, they were going to paint her as somebody who told Clinton that if he didn't sleep
Oh.
with her, she'd tell everyone he did.
Dude, I totally believe it. I mean, just
Yeah.
imagine you're in the fucking Oval Office and some like weird like presidential aide fucking sits you down. He's like, "This is how it is, toots."
Yeah.
It's just
And then
like,
sends you on your way. But
yeah.
she gave a perjured affidavit. She said it didn't happen because of fear. And then she later on had the dress and gave up the dress and
Whoa. Well, it's
yeah.
pretty crazy, like the shit that happens behind the scenes. Like, did you read the article with like the so what is it, the lady from like Roe versus Wade? The I guess in the '90s she like famously reversed her opinion, but it turns out
Mhm.
she was like paid off by some random politicians to do it.
Oh my
It's
God.
crazy. Also,
Oh
it's like
my
very funny
God.
to like say that you're like the guy from that Supreme Court case. Like, it's Wade from Roe v. Wade. You may know me from
I
Roe v.
know.
Wade fame. Yeah. He's like has like a book
Yeah.
tour. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Of
It's
Wade.
Wade.
That's
You
Wade.
guys know
Totally
me. He's
Wade.
just like showing up at parties. It's
Yeah.
Wade.
It's
You
Wade.
guys know me.
He's doing like shitty bar appearances. Like, all right, well tonight we have so and so from American Idol, and we have Wade from Roe versus Wade. Give it up for
Yeah.
Wade. He's like, ah.
He's like a rapper now with just one name.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. He's just doing
He's
it,
just
like he's doing morning
just
radio and shit. Just
yeah.
yeah, just making like 10 grand a year on the
Yeah,
road.
talking about how he does community service voluntarily to help kids
Yeah,
and shit.
yeah. His like sham charity website that like is like a fraud. Yeah.
Oh no.
It's
Yeah.
kids helping kids. It's a great cause.
Yeah, kids helping. But it's amazing how many like if you have to look at it, like Bill Clinton has to be one of the least feminist people
Oh, he's awful. Dude, he's a
of
fucking
history.
yeah.
And a lot of people at that time bought into it. I don't know,
Yeah, dude.
but
I honestly, it's not just him. There's like a very weird like romanticization of like shitty presidents. Like
I
people kind
know.
of view George Bush as this like cute, like little funny guy. But like, dude, like when I was alive during Bush, it was like people fucking hated him. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty much comparable to now. It was like insane how much everyone hated him. He was not this like cute guy who paints paintings. He was like a war criminal that everyone disliked and wanted dead.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it was not.
He's just
Yeah,
dumb. He's just a dumb
yeah,
guy.
uh,
Just
yeah. People
you
have a
can
very
do you
yeah.
can do just as much evil when you're dumb as when you're evil.
Yeah, it's a very strange like collective memory. Like I wonder if we just say that they weren't that bad just so we can like handle it better. Like
Yeah.
okay, we survived that. Let's compartmentalize it now.
Also, Kennedy, famous rape
Oh,
allegation
dude,
against
the
him.
shit about him is crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
rough.
like he was dating the same people as like this Chicago mobster. He was all mobbed up and it was all crazy.
No, yeah.
Yeah, foul.
And then there are stories of him apparently like having hookers come over,
Uh,
and then he would have Secret Service agents like put them underwater when he was about to come or something.
what?
So they, yeah,
Jesus Christ.
yeah,
Well,
not
it's
good.
once again, it's like if you're the president, nobody can like deny anything you say. You can
Yeah,
just be like, you can do anything, and then no one's gonna believe your any accusation.
yeah, and he's one of the very worst presidents too.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do much for leftism. He
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 also
brought it
he
way
did the
back.
fucking he literally did Bay of Pigs. That was him.
I know, I know. And Vietnam.
Yeah, in Vietnam, that was him. It's all
We
him.
just fucking forgot.
Dude,
Everyone
fucking like
forgot.
I swear to God, like Lyndon B. Johnson did more than Kennedy. Like that guy.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Jimmy
Lyndon
Carter
B.
did more than
Johnson.
Kennedy, dude. Yeah,
Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
LBJ was the man. Like Kennedy didn't really
But
do it.
there are stories of Kennedy saying, being asked about Vietnam and being told like we really shouldn't be in there. This is stupid. And he says, where would Lincoln have been without the Civil War and shit like that?
Dude,
Just
I forgot
glorified war.
someone had this like really funny point that someone told me where like it was kind of this good point that like that's randomly one of the most progressive times in American history was the Nixon administration because people hated Nixon so much that there was all kinds of protesting and activism and like all these like progressive bills are being passed
Yeah.
just against Nixon. So randomly his era was actually very progressive just from how much people were trying to like get him out of there.
Yeah.
Actually, like, yeah, so like
So
it was
the
pretty
reaction
funny.
against it.
Yeah, like the reaction was so powerful that it actually superseded his whole presidency. Like it was pretty funny.
Have you heard his fucking tapes?
Oh no, yeah, wait, yes, I
Oh,
have. I heard the Dan Carlin, where they had like those tapes around the room. Where he was just like mouth, like he was just yelling at his like cabinet and shit. It was
yeah.
funny. Yeah,
And then he just says racist things all over the place.
yeah, it was
He
like Donald
hates.
Sterling. Yeah, it was.
I know
Yeah,
he just like these Jews and
yeah.
these blacks, and he's all over the place
Dude,
with it.
this is very unrelated, but that Donald Sterling documentary is coming out. Like the Clippers owner, were like, so he
Mhm.
hates one. He didn't want his girlfriend hanging out with the black basketball players, and then he had another thing where he said he hates white basketball players. It's like who do you like? Like who do you fucking?
I know.
He hates everybody. Jesus Christ.
Holy shit! I don't know much about that guy. I
He was
guess,
just
but
this like very corrupt like businessman who owned the LA Clippers, and like he pretty much just frauded his way into owning a basketball team, and he just hated black people. Like it just was
oh my
the best.
god,
He was just a terrible man. Like
yeah.
he's banned from all NBA games.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he just
god,
hates like everybody. It's like it's pretty funny. But
that is funny.
oh man,
Boy,
I've got to hear more of those Nixon tapes because I've heard the ones too where fucking Kennedy would like put the tapes in the room in the meeting room and he would leave the tape running. I think Seinfeld has the gag about that where he would leave the tape running and leave and come back and hear it
mhm.
to just hear all the generals talking shit on him.
Yeah,
Pretty funny. Yeah.
that's so good.
It's a
That's
genius
so good.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's politics right there.
But I'll be like, I
But
think this Kennedy guy is kind of
he was a great politician. He was just a shit president.
well, exactly. I mean, he's a creep, but that's
Just
his
like
that creep acumen made him good at
yeah.
right. Yeah.
I mean, somebody said that I can't remember who it was that said once in every about 50 years in a country you'll have one politician who has a good heart and also is ruthless enough to get to power.
That's pretty fun.
Um,
It's pretty funny
yeah,
because Obama is like pretty much that. Like, I think he was
yeah,
very charming, but he's also like drone striking people all the time.
yeah.
Like,
I
yeah.
know. I mean, it's just
It's honestly the thing
yeah,
I'm so confused about Obama because like I actually do think he is like a nice guy who had good intentions. I just want to like ask him, like just sit
yeah,
him down, like, dude, like why did you do all this stuff? Like what was that? Like why?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
'Cause,
was
like he's also
prosecuting.
like I just don't believe he could be this evil. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't either. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody who writes well can't be evil in my eyes. I
Yeah,
just
no,
like how
exactly. I'm so confused. Like maybe someone just like, but for all we know, like once they become president, they just like put a gun to your
yeah.
head. Like here's the deal, sonny boy.
There are people who voted for him just because he was a good writer.
Yeah, no,
And
for
if
sure. Dude,
if I were,
his writing skills got him through like the election. That was a big
yeah,
yeah.
if I were able to vote, I would have done that. I would have said, he's a good writer. I
Yeah.
have to. What can I
Yeah.
do?
I gotta do it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta do it. I mean, he's a good writer.
Ah
When's the
man.
last time? I mean, before that,
Like George
you
H.
had,
Bush. I mean, I don't like him, but like those old presidents were kind of into it, like writing and shit.
yeah. Um, Woodrow Wilson was the last like really good writer, I think,
Oh yeah, yeah,
in the right White House, and then before him, Lincoln. I
yeah.
don't know.
Lincoln. Well, yeah, because they had like presidents like Eisenhower who were like generals. They weren't like really that
Mhm.
kind of people.
Right,
Yeah.
and then and then before that, you had like a Jefferson. You have to go so far
Yeah,
back.
you have to go back to the founding fathers. Yeah,
It just that's just because there are so many bad writers anyway. Like
yeah.
so many people who write are just bad. Like Theodore Roosevelt wrote, but he sucked.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
He wrote he wrote
Oh, wait a second. No, I have read. He had like some very racist pamphlets, didn't he? He had some. Yeah,
sure he
I've
did. I'm
seen
sure he
those.
did. I don't know about those, but I'm sure he did.
Oh man, no, I
Uh,
remember in Mad Men they actually have some of his books, and it's like really funny. Like it's just like awful shit. Yeah, he had some
yeah,
really weird shit about race. I think.
he did. I mean, he was the person to whom Kipling appealed for invasion into the Philippines.
Yeah, because he was the guy with the Spanish American War, right? He was all like with the charge and like all that shit.
I think I don't know about that. I think he may have fought in it. I don't know that he
Yeah.
presided over it,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. The big, huh.
he fought in a war famously. He was a war hero.
Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was preceded by William McKinley, who no one. Oh, he was assassinated, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was assassinated, and then he was succeeded by Taft, which is hilarious. Yeah.
Would isn't there a Family Guy joke about that where it's just like William Howard Taft? I don't remember anything about Family Guy but that.
You know, I just saw this the famous joke where like they had to like make a special bathtub to get his fat ass in there.
I know. It's
Just
so funny.
washing him like a
Well,
fucking elephant.
that happened. I mean, he got stuck in his bathtub and they had to like take it apart.
Oh god, yeah. His presidency was like it was like an episode of like my 600 pound life. He was just
I know.
wheezing the whole time. He was gonna die like the whole time.
He's so fat.
Morbidly obese. Especially back then, you know how hard it is to be fat in 1906 or whatever it is. Very
And
different.
then
Yeah.
Conan O'Brien is like he's famous among his staff for knowing how presidents died, and they were like, "How did Taft die?" And then Conan said, "He just rolled away."
Rolled away.
Yeah, thought it was so funny.
Rolled is so funny. That's really.
No, he just rolled away.
Yeah,
It's
Conan's a
just like,
genius. Conan's in a fucking Harvard Lampoon. That guy's a genius.
yeah, I mean, he's a
Yeah,
smart feller.
yeah,
But he's also got the stupidest humor,
yeah.
which is what's so nice.
Oh, I love him. He's
It's so
awesome.
nice. Also, I've been thinking about the connection between silly people and grumpy.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, a lot of silly people are really grumpy. Like I'm really grumpy, but I'm silly.
that's
And
true. Yeah, no, I'm silly, but then I'll be like pouting all the time whenever I'm
yeah,
like emotional. It's weird,
and then
but
we'll
yeah,
we'll we'll like get mad at bad manners and shit.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a lot of. I definitely do a lot of projecting. Like, I'll get mad at people for things that I wish I could be doing.
yeah,
I'm like, why aren't you doing this? It's like I'm just saying that because I'm just trying to like remind myself to do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Larry David, very silly, extremely grumpy.
exactly. There you
You
go.
know,
Fucking Louis C.K. Very silly, goofy,
yeah,
extremely grumpy. I mean, all his jokes are
yeah.
grumpy. Yeah.
So grumpy. Yeah.
Also a creep.
Also a
Not a
creep.
creep. And
Yeah.
he's like one of the greatest comedians of all time. So that's
Of
yeah.
course, yeah. I mean, you have to include
He's
him,
the
but it's
blueprint.
yeah. If you're putting, we're like tasked with putting together the 10 best comedians of all time. We like got Woody Allen, Louis. We're like, putting
Yeah,
them down.
exactly.
Uh,
It's like
no,
yeah, it's like defusing a
uh,
bomb. You're just like, ah, God,
no.
no, no. Yeah.
Who would you put in your top 10?
Oh, like funny people, just any funny people.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay. I think. Oh, that is hard. Okay, I think I would do Louis, Mel Brooks, Woody Allen, I think Seinfeld.
Mm.
Let's see, Patrice O'Neill, Colin Quinn, fucking who else? Paul Verhoeven, the director of RoboCop and Starship Troopers.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
that
that
guy's
kid.
so funny.
Yeah, fuck. What else? Maybe Marx Brothers too,
Yeah.
and shit, maybe Robin Williams and uh Dave Chappelle. Yeah, Dave Chappelle. I think
Okay.
that's a very
For me,
haphazard. That's me saying in like a minute. I could probably
right.
come up with a better one. But what's
Oh yeah.
yours?
For me, it would have to be Seth MacFarlane, Larry the Cable Guy. Who else? You've got your Pee Wee Herman. You've
Pee Wee
got
Herman.
your
This is going for all the goofballs. I see.
George W. Bush W.
This
And you've got
is a good list. Keep going.
yeah,
Yeah, you only have
George
four.
W. Bush. You've got your who else? Um, John Stewart.
Oh God. Okay, I really regret having any dose of sincerity with mine.
I know. I just make you feel like shit for
Uh,
being.
I was being all like waxing poetically about comedy.
I know. And I'm just over here like whacking off to it. It's like, yeah.
I deserve
Yeah.
that. I deserve that
No, I'm just kidding.
one.
Yeah, no, funny people, I'd put all writers. I don't think any comedians stack up to the funny writers of all time.
Yeah, probably comedian. You could just put in Carlin or something. That's probably the
Yeah.
blueprint. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think Carlin's that funny a lot of the time.
I don't think he's that funny, but I do think he made the style that which is important. Like that kind
Yeah,
of
he.
like the kind of on stage stand up style. That's like
I mean, like literary writers. I think the funniest people I've ever read are William Gass, Mark Twain, Gore Vidal, Kipling, actually, and then.
Dude,
Um,
I might say Roald Dahl. Just I think he's just hilarious.
oh, Arash, I wanted to show you that this book I've been reading by William Gass called On Being Blue.
Oh
Um,
yeah, you talking about that?
okay, yeah. So it's just a tiny essay about
On being blue, nice.
basically it's an essay about obscenity, and it's an essay about things that are blue and all the senses of blue, and blue writing, which can mean really over the top, like flowery writing. And he just
Right.
talks about everything we call blue, things that are misnamed blue. But most of it's about swearing and his theory about swearing. I just love it so much. Let me find one
Oh, go
part.
for it. No, and just for record, I'm gonna start like tweeting out the books or whatever we like reference. So
Okay.
I'm making a note of all these. So like, well, I'll put up the episode and like drop in the links for the books so you can like go check them out if you want.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can follow
Um,
along with the boys.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Arash, the whole book is a joke. The
Oh,
whole thing is a big, intricate joke.
he wrote it as a
And
joke.
it's basically a big philosophical joke. Like the whole thing and everything in it connects to everything else as a joke. And then you learn that On Being Blue is a pun, and he means BLEW later on.
What year
So
is this?
this is I think it must have been the 70s or 80s.
Oh wow, okay.
He's one of the great writers. He's unsung, but he's one of America's great
It's
writers.
William Guess.
Yeah, William Gass Gass. And then
Oh, okay.
he says when with an expression, and also it's over the top flowery, and that's part of the joke too. But he says, when with an expression so ill-bred as to be fatherless, I enjoin a small offensive fellow to fuck a duck. I don't mean he should.
He's
Uh,
literally just saying, it's a joke, come on.
yeah, I just like
That's
nothing of the
hilarious.
sort is in my mind. In a way, I've used the words, yet I've quite ignored their content. And in that sense, I've not employed them at all. They've only appeared. I haven't even exercised the form. The command was not a command. Go fly a kite only looks like shut the door. At first glance, it seems enough that the words themselves be shocking or offensive, that they dent the fender of convention and at least a little, but there is always more to anything than that. And it's just amazingly written the whole time.
That's
Also.
an interesting hold on. So like he's kind of saying like at a first glance you just immediately identify a certain word as like, oh, that's shocking.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Part of the point of the book is that when we use swear words, nobody loves them enough. It's like nobody thinks about them enough, which is
Yes,
why if
it's
you
for
get
emphasis because you use it to draw attention to like what you're saying, right? You're
right.
like, oh, this fucking government. It's like because you're frustrated or something.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
he talks about how we should be using them in more creative ways. We should come up with more creative ways to be offensive,
yeah.
and to swear because it serves a purpose. And he has all kinds of different swear words he's tried to catch on, which haven't worked. And he says most of the time we are content to cry out "fuck" as if pinched, but the function of our wall words and slightly more elaborate curses, such as, and these are his curses he made up: "May your cock continue life as a Canadian," and then "May the houseflies winter over in your womb," and "May you be inhaled by your own asshole."
Oh my god. So you said flies in your womb.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
But look at this. On the bottom it says property of Provo High School Library.
You could put.
And you can
Oh,
see you can
Provo's so
see
dumb. I bet someone bought that like, well, this will teach them.
I know. It's like, well, it's about sadness. We need to talk more about mental health. But it was checked out exactly once and then put up for sale. This is my favorite thing. This is one book I can't get rid of because of that story.
That's so funny.
It's so funny, and that even adds to how cohesively this book is a
How
joke.
grotesque it is. Just
Yeah, it's just a huge joke.
that's the joke
Um,
right there. It's literally proof that it got someone.
I know, it's so funny to me.
That's really funny.
Oh my God,
I've got to read that.
yeah, it's one of my very favorite things. Um, it's a quick read. It's a difficult read though. It's really difficult. And for a lot of the time, I don't know what he's talking about, and then it becomes clear later.
Okay.
Yeah, but like at the beginning, he's very cryptic, but then it becomes like it's part of the joke of it.
That's
But
kind
he
of interesting
said,
though. I mean, all, like, because it kind of unveils itself, like as you work towards it. Like,
right. But
uh,
I'm going to read a little bit of it. It's just
yeah.
the beginning. The beginning says, "Blue pencils, blue noses, blue movies, laws, blue legs and stockings. The language of birds, bees, and flowers is sung by longshoremen. That lead-like look the skin has when affected by cold, contusion, sickness, fear. The rotten rum or gin they call blue ruin, and the blue devils of its delirium. Russian cats and oysters, a withheld or imprisoned breath. The blue they say that diamonds have. Deep holes in the ocean and the blazers which English athletes earn that gentlemen may wear, afflictions of the spirit, dumps, mopes, Mondays, all that's dismal, low down, gloomy music, Nova Scotians, cyanosis, hair rinse, bluing, bleach, the rare blue dahlia like that blue moon, shrewd things happen only once in, or the call for trumps and whist, but who remembers whist or what the death of unplayed games is like, and correspondingly the flag, blue Peter, which is our signal for getting underway, a swift pitch, Confederate money, the shaded slopes of clouds and mountains, and so the constantly increasing absentness of heaven. Ins blaue Heinen, the Germans say. Consequently, the color of everything that's empty, blue bottles, bank accounts, and compliments, for instance, or when the skies turn turtle, the blue-green bleed of ocean, both the same. And when in hell, its neatly landscaped rows of concrete huts and gas blue flames, social registers, examination booklets, blue bloods, balls and bonnets, beards, coats, collars, chips, and cheese, up the pedantic, indecent, and censorious, watered twilight, sour sea, through a scrambling of accidents, blue has become their color, just as it stood for fidelity.
Wow. I mean, that was very pretty.
He's the best.
I understood very little of that, but that
I
was
know.
yeah.
He just lists things that are blue, and
Yeah.
then he later on he explains that it's a celebration of blue at the beginning of the book. He wanted to start it with a beautiful celebration, like a fireworks display of
That's
blue.
so weird.
Yeah, but it's a book that's hard to be logical about because you're supposed to sort of internalize the
Just
joke
enjoy
of
it
it.
as it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, just like with a joke, you just internalize the joke of it. It just has its
Right.
own kind of logic.
That's
But
true. I mean,
it's
most jokes
yeah,
don't make that much sense, but you just they just you just have to accept it and it'll
yeah.
yeah.
It just does something to your belly. I don't know,
Huh.
but that's what this book does. Just in long, just it's 100 pages, but it gets funnier and funnier with each page.
Oh
It's just
shit.
this
Okay.
long, beautiful joke. It's amazing. It's just amazing, and it's so vile too. It's just completely disgusting. which is great. Which is why I don't have any patience for people who say only the stupid use dirty humor.
Exactly.
And then they say, why do you have to use dirty humor? It's not about need.
Yeah.
It's about enjoyment. It's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
No,
But
exactly. There's way cheaper language than vulgarity, I feel like.
right?
Yeah.
But he in here is saying that swear words are cheap, but they don't have to be. Is basically the point of this
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, it's kind of the whole thing where in high school you swear a lot because it's like exciting, it's like
yeah.
thrilling. But like now that like once you become older, you're not like doing it as much. Just even you don't even realize you just stop swearing as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that just means you're more careful. Like you say it when you really mean it, which I think is valid. Yeah.
I swear a lot though. I swear so much.
I mean, for me, it's like half filler swears, but it's really just me saying Like I definitely don't have very many sincere swears. Like you
Yeah.
goddamn son of a bitch. Like oh, you know.
I mean, the uneducated in any language, Cockney people and our
Yeah. Oh, you
Southerners, and there's like,
fucking
oh, you fucking, he's gonna get his fucking roots off.
yeah.
And then it's like, hey, look, motherfucking idiot, come over here and say fucking,
Yeah.
you fucking me.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, this book, it's one of those books where to say this is the point of the book is to cut so much out of it.
Hmm.
And it's only 90 pages, which is also great.
Who's
But
this William Gas fellow again? Was he just like a writer or a
yeah,
comedian?
yeah, he was a writer.
Oh,
He
okay.
was he was a novelist. He took so long to write everything, so he has so few books. But like his big novel, The Tunnel, which is an interesting. You might actually
I've heard
really
of the
like it.
tunnel. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's about history because it's told from the point of view of the narrator is a professor of the third who specializes in the Third Reich, and he's supposed to be writing. He's written a historical account of the Third Reich, and then the book The Tunnel is supposed to be the beginning of it, the preface.
Oh
But
man.
but throughout writing the preface, he goes insane, and he starts digging a tunnel from under his house to get away from his family, and also, so you're wondering whether the tunnel is real or metaphorical.
Oh, I love a good unreliable narrator. That's my
I
thing.
know, yeah. And then, but
Also, Third Reich professor. That's a shitty job. That's a hard job to defend. You're like, I'm just a fan of the era. Hey, come on.
I know, but
Yeah.
he just knew a lot about it. But it's interesting that, and it's about 1,000 pages, this book.
Whoa. Okay,
So
so
it's
he
basically he
varies in
starts
length.
off, yeah, he just starts off talking about the Third Reich and Hitler and his book he's written, and he's introducing it, but then it just goes and he just goes insane, and it becomes this 1,000 page rant basically.
Wow, that's
Um,
crazy. Okay,
it's supposed to be great.
that sounds interesting. Okay, yeah, no, I will check that out.
Yeah, I want to read that. Um, everyone talks about Infinite Jest, but I have an inkling that's just a much better novel.
God
The
damn it.
Tunnel. Yeah.
Why does like I swear to God, that book will just not go away.
I know it's I don't know.
It never goes away. That's what you walk into a room, you just hear the tail end of like and the tennis player. And you're like, what the fuck is a tennis player? Like,
Yeah, I
stop
mean
it.
the point of I mean I see Wallace as a very talented writer, maybe the most talented writer of his generation, who had just a great ear for speech,
Mhm.
and he was able to synthesize kind of the language of copywriting almost and make a new kind of sentence.
Mhm.
And I like some of his stuff, and some of his stuff I really, really, really don't like. And I didn't like what I read of Infinite Jest. I didn't get very far in because I got so mad.
It's too
And it's
daunting for
not,
me. I haven't started
you
it
know,
yet.
I mean, it's not usual for me to chicken out on a big book, but it really did make me so mad that I stopped reading it. And I tried twice, which is saying a lot for me. I don't try a book twice usually. But he just he makes some he's so obvious with his symbolistic parallels.
Oh.
He's just so obvious with them, and then he just bashes you over the head. But
Wait, so like like the dripping faucet is just a faucet, or
yeah,
oh,
and that
okay.
like and these the point of a work like this is the symbols are supposed to the themes are supposed to gather like in classical music to
Mm.
it. But he just like makes it so he hits you so hard over the head with it at the beginning. I can't imagine how he makes the climax. I'm sure he does, but at the very beginning of the book, I must have gotten maybe 50 pages in before I stopped. But
Just
I,
infuriated.
yeah, I was so mad. But at the beginning of the book, he talks about tennis, and the guy's a tennis player. So you're like, okay, tennis. This is he talking a lot about tennis, so this is going to be a part of the book. And then that tennis player starts talking about his mom when he was a kid,
Oh
who
God.
got mad because I don't know, something happened. And then she kept going back and forth within the little garden that's been fenced off. So you're like, okay, so their mother is the ball and tennis, and then this is going to be a symbol that comes up. And it
Oh,
just seemed like child's play to me. And
I totally get why that's like impressive, but I would hate
yeah,
to actually read that.
I don't know. I didn't think it was too impressive. I mean, it was pretty much immediately after. It was so close, and he was supposed to have like mapped out this fractal structure from the book, and that's how he brought up the themes. But
He's just having like eureka moments. The mom is the tennis ball.
yeah,
David,
the
you
mom
still
is
got it.
yeah, but it's I mean, it's a I should read it just so I can shit on it better.
Yeah.
I
I
should
shit
read
on it
it.
in a bit, and I haven't even read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've read some of it, but there's
It's
one
just one of
part
those.
where
It's a book that creeps read.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an undergraduate book.
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
book you
people
read to hit on like a 19-year-old at a coffee shop.
yeah, I mean,
You
you
just like
could
slam it down, and yeah.
yeah, Hitchens said something like that. He said, "Whatever somebody tells me to read, I don't know. No offense to him, but Jonathan Franzen." What I think is, will they be asking me this next year?
Ah,
And and uh, and then he said, well, he can just go back to the masters. I mean, why not just go back to the masters? I mean, there are masters nowadays. What Wallace was an amazingly talented original voice. That's what he was, but he never attained mastery. He almost did with parts of Pale King, which is the novel he never finished. But that the short story that became part of Pale King that was published in the New Yorker, Good People, is one of the best short stories I've ever read.
Pale King. Okay.
Yeah, Pale King. But in a masterpiece, you know pretty soon whether it's a masterpiece. You know, like if you're reading Moby Dick, you're like, this is a masterpiece. You don't have to read 300 pages in
Yeah.
order to get to the
Dude,
masterpiece part.
it's literally those shows people recommend to you. Where it's like, listen, the first couple seasons are rocky, but season three, you really start. You're like, I'm not gonna watch 2 seasons to get into this.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so rough. I
You're
mean,
like, come on,
and
Burn
then
Notice is a good show. You're like, shut the fuck up. It's not.
yeah, and then when you get really, really into literature, you learn that the most difficult thing to perfect um, is a short story, like more difficult than a poem, apparently more difficult than a novel. This is well set down by people like Isaac Bashevis Singer, who says this in the preface to his book of short stories, which are amazing, by the way. I think anybody who wants to read Infinite Jest should read his collected short stories 4 times instead. But and in each of them, he makes a point in so little time and with such economy that's so beautiful that and I don't know. I can't imagine reading Infinite Jest and having that much more enjoyment than from reading a really good Singer story. I mean, I really doubt it because he's the master of the short story form, and you can go back and learn what all he's doing. But also, what Wallace did was instead of like thinking what is best, he just gave us the stuff that made him feel like he wasn't writing. He just gave us the stuff that made him forget he was living. He gave us the stuff that just he was inspired by, basically. So you have in Oblivion, there's a story about a dog, and there are great passages that are very vivid and well put together about what this dog looks like. It's a short story what this dog looks like. It has a sore at the base of its tail, and it feels very real, and then doesn't go much of anywhere for a long time. So his verisimilitude, because he was so inspired so much of the time and really couldn't write without inspiration, which is also not good. But like you read him and it's very captivating a lot of the time, except when he gets really performative, like with the pages of Infinite Jest I read. But it just, he takes so long to get anywhere. And then you read Henry James and the Spoils of Poynton, and that's a short novel, and he's talking about this grand. He has this grand story of this house whose owner dies, and all the things in it are going to be put up for sale. And there's like a fight over the contents of the house because it was so beautifully curated by the person who owned it. And he's able to suggest a very intricate and beautiful array of things by describing intricately, I think, one cross and by a few general statements. But that's mastery. That's what mastery is. I mean, I think, I mean, it's the difference between, Eminem, who's good at writing and he's got an original voice, and a poet who's studied poetry, and knows how to get his fucking point across.
Or Eminem and other rappers.
Yeah. I mean, there are rappers I've heard that I think are way better, than Eminem, but he's probably the best example of them, of just a good voice who's very untrained. It's kind of
funny. It's like you have skill in some perspective. You just don't have that extra thing.
Yeah.
Of like putting it somewhere good.
Yeah. I don't know. And he has trouble with characterization too. Like his characters end up being cartoony a lot of the times, which can be a stylistic choice. And he uses it to get some really good comedic effects. But like he has an essay about writing, and about teaching writing to people and saying to them, like, this would be great if I gave a flying fuck about any of your characters. And that's exactly how I feel in his books. Like, I just don't care. And then Tolstoy and Joyce and all these people who wrote huge masterpieces, like, reformed later in life. Tolstoy actually repudiated all his earlier writing because they all thought that you should actually just write little fables that get your point across. They said it's a sin. Tolstoy said it is a sin to write a big book because you don't have to do it.
It's funny because this circles back to the original thing where it's like I love a good snappy joke.
Yeah.
Brevity is good, man. I fucking love some brevity.
Yeah, and it has the highest effects a lot of the time, I think. I mean, this is such a full experience, and it's 90 fucking pages.
Yeah, exactly. No, this fucking thing's like 200, 100 pages. Yeah. It's the best thing I've ever, because every line is like a bomb. You're just like, holy shit.
Of course, yeah. I mean, read Samuel Johnston's preface to Shakespeare one day, which is 70 pages.
Oh, I think you talked about this one, yeah.
But you have you feel like you have the most thorough education in literary criticism. You just feel like you've been completely educated. You're like, I know what it is. And then you read more and you find out you don't again. But it's, he just makes, I don't know. He's good.
Hell yeah, man. Wait, should we wrap this thing up? I guess it's been like a good hour and a half.
Has it? Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm done ranting.
No, that was good. Yeah, for the episode description, I'll just say we talked about identity, some shit in between, comedy, shop talk, and we chat on Infinite Jest.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to make sure everyone knows I think Wallace is good. but just not, he didn't attain mastery. He didn't do it. He might have with the later
one, like Finite Jest, like does it
Limited Jest.
Limited Jest. Okay. That's the episode. Limited Jest. I'm putting it in. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Okay, I'm fully unemployed now, so I'm gonna be trying to like put these up more regularly and get the editing done faster.
Hell yeah.
Sorry it's been so like regular. Also, I'll try to keep the Twitter and Facebook stuff going.
Yeah, I didn't see anything posted on Twitter. I'd have retweeted it.
I've been lazy with the tweeting. And
you got to build a fan base again.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone forgot about this. But yeah, I'll definitely post the books we read too. Like, so anything we mentioned in the episode, I'm writing down now. So we'll tweet it out so you can like check it out too. Yeah,
Awesome.
and find us on Twitter. We're at that hap pod, and on Instagram that happened pod, and you can email us at thathappenedpod@gmail. So
Yeah, do those things.
yep, do that stuff. And yeah, send us some shit you want us to talk about or read or something. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll read it.
yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah.
Next week I'm talking about Churchill.
Oh, hell yeah, yes. Yeah. Next week I'll be talking more about this book, and I'm gonna rewatch Battle of Algiers and do a review.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
I'm so underwatched. I'm so underwatched. I'm underread too, but I've read like enough of different things that I can have opinions.
Underread and underwatched. That's a good like book name.
Yeah, underread and underwatched.
Underread, underwatched. One Man Story of the White House, 1997 to 90. Yeah.
Underread, underwatched, underwear.
Underwear.
That's what it'll be.
Well,
Right.
that was a good way to wrap up an hour and a half of gold.
I love how easy it is to rope you into like 3 more minutes of talking,
exactly.
and then you're like okay, well that's a good place. On that note, that's a good place to end it.
I'm so eager for conversation. I keep getting sucked back in.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's just the loneliness. My brain does that where it's like
as soon as
I'm gonna rope him in again.
Boom,
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the Godfather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, also one thing I wanted to talk about, Arash,
God damn it.
was I
Okay, how about this? I'll give you one tangent. Yeah.
Okay. And I have to think about what it'll be.
No, okay, we're done. We're done.
No, Arash. I'm thinking.
Zoom.
No, I'm thinking.
Alright, the
Let
Zoom
me
zone.
look around the room. Lamps?
We'll see you next week.
You have anything to say, Arash, about
I'm pausing the recording now.
ramp?